Alright, everyone knows the Meathook. You look at enemy, you swing on enemy, fun, strong, good mod. Maybe even the best. Unfortunately, you probably also know it's one of the most inconsistent. There are few worse feelings than mashing right click while looking directly at an enemy and hearing that tick 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 falling off the map or getting whacked by the Baron that is right next to you. Has it happened to you? I feel like it's happened to you. I mean, it's happened to me a few dozen times. In this video, I'll be going over why your Meathook decides it just won't detect an enemy and what you can do to best mitigate this. The first thing you need to know about the Meathook is that it does not target demons. Sort of. I mean, it targets demons, sure, but not really. On a technical level, it doesn't really work that way anyway. In reality, the Meathook targets these floating points I'll be calling Meathook nodes for the rest of the video. Let's look at this imp for example. The Meathook detects the imp and locks onto a very specific point in its chest area. That point is the imp's Meathook node. No matter where you look at this imp from, behind, in front, or on the side, the Meathook attaches to the Meathook node. And this is where it starts getting questionable. The Meathook is working fine on this imp, because we're far enough away that its whole body is in the crosshair. But let's get close enough to maybe remove that node from the crosshair while still looking directly at the imp. Well, what do we have here? Some ripe tomfoolery, I'd say. Okay, so that imp example was a little manufactured. After all, how many times do you actually struggle to Meathook an imp? Okay, maybe a few if you're like me, but usually it's okay. Let's take a look at something a bit more hairy. Alright, we got one of the bigger boys on screen now, the Doom Hunter. You might be thinking, damn, this is a big one. He's gotta have like 3 Meathook nodes. No, silly, he's got 1 node. Every demon has 1 node. And don't you dare go thinking that they should have more. Jokes aside, you'll see its place in his abdomen. Pretty reasonable, you might think. You'd usually look at his abdomen, right? Well, okay, no, you probably don't think that. At this stage of the game's life, pretty much everyone knows you don't actually want to shoot him, you want to shoot the sled. So what happens if you look at the sled? Yeah, nothing. You can't Meathook onto the sled. You can't even Meathook on the Doom Hunter while looking at the sled. You'll just get that classic tick, 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 and sadness. It gets even worse from the side where you can easily have the entire sled in your crosshair and get absolutely nothing from the Meathook. So you get it now. The Meathook is broken because each demon has only 1 Meathook node. But wait, is that really it? Actually, yeah, it is. Pretty much every major problem with the Meathook could be fixed by adjusting how many nodes each demon has and their placement. Let's look back at that imp from earlier. Remember how the node is in its chest? Turns out this is a pretty bad place for it, since whenever you hook onto an imp, the high placement of the node will cause you to shoot directly above him. Exactly what you wanted, right? And even when you try to compensate for this, you're likely to shoot above it because of how jerky the animation is. Moving the node to the imp's waist would probably fix the issue entirely. And just to be extra clear, nodes are not the problem. They are actually pretty good. Consistently locking onto a demon from the same location has benefits to muscle memory, and in general, likely makes the Meathook feel better. The problem is threefold: placement, quantity, and the size of the crosshair, which frankly is not nearly large enough to make the Meathook feel consistent. You may have thought the Doom Hunter was bad, but it was a tame example compared to what I'm about to show you. This is the Arachnotron, and wow, is this embarrassing. You can have the entire brain in your crosshair and be unable to hook onto it. Why? Because the node is placed on its underside. Like what? Why? And it only gets worse, much worse, when you move to its side. I mean, just look at this. It really feels like it should never have been released in this state. A little playtesting would have gone a long way here. Arachnodes are not the only egregious example of poorly executed Meathook nodes either. The Cackle Demon and Pale Elemental are just horrendous here. I mean, there's a big ball of meat in my crosshair, and you're telling me my Meathook can't latch onto it? So yeah, it's real bad. But just like every other weird quirk in this game, you can play around it by being big brain. The big brain strat here: memorize the Meathook node location of every demon and adjust to aiming at that instead of the actual demon when you want to be hooked towards it. You may say, well, that's completely unreasonable. I can't possibly be expected to remember all of that and play around it while a million different things are happening on screen. And to that, I can only say, welcome to Doom Eternal. So yeah, there's a link to an unlisted video in the description showing off the Meathook node location of every demon in the game. You can pop that open and use the description to jump to any demon you're curious about, or just sit through the whole thing if you're crazy enough. I hope you found this video informative, and if you did, consider dropping a like. The YouTube algorithm really hates me, so anything helps. And until next time, keep on slaying.